It's Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, and I'm here with Julie, Richie, mom to Hannah, and grandma, I guess, to Truffle, who was one of the shrooms. They were born on 5/19 of 2024. So I would like to just sort of ask if you wouldn't mind to just give a little bit of a background to how we got to meet back in a year ago. October 4th, I think, was our first date of contact, and it's August 12th, so it's been 10 months.
So the background on how we found you and Truffle.
Well, how it came to be that you
Yeah.
thought your daughter would benefit from a service dog.
So we had thought, I would say on and off, probably for a couple of years, about the idea of a service dog. We had never looked into it a lot, but we had kind of kicked around the idea that, it might be good for Hannah, not just as a companion for her, but to really help her with some independence.
Can you just give a brief explanation of like the different, like the story of how Hannah got to where she is today?
Yep. So Hannah was, for all intents and purposes, pretty much fine until she was 13. There were signs earlier, but not signs that we were picked up on to really figure out that something was wrong. And, looking back, of course, I can see those things. But at the time, she was what you would think was a normal, teenager. Played sports, went to school, had friends, all those things. At 13, she got sick with mono. And from that day forward, her GI symptoms were just out of control. Constant vomiting and diarrhea, to the point that she was being hospitalized once a month, pretty routinely, for dehydration. And then some of the other symptoms started creeping in as well. She infections that we couldn't get rid of, and the dizziness, and they'd often attribute the dizziness and the passing out to dehydration, but then we'd get her hydrated and she still had some of these things. So eventually we started putting pieces together that she had POTS. And from the POTS diagnosis, we were able to realize she had the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos that goes along with the POTS, and it's called mast cell disorder, that also, those three tend to go hand in hand. They're all related to collagen and those tissues not being, the correct way. But anyway, she had the POTS. Her GI issues had gotten to the point where her stomach was not emptying anymore. And so we had tried a surgery. She was being placed on tube feedings and IV feedings, kind of on and off at that point. And then in 2020, she had a stroke, a very significant stroke. And from that point is sort of, I would say, when we first started thinking about a service dog. From a mobility standpoint, she had right-sided weakness, cognitive issues, memory issues, and the GI worsened to the point where she essentially couldn't eat, was just on IV nutrition and tube feeding. And that's kind of where we are now. Things, had worsened. She needed frequent blood transfusions and weekly iron infusions, and fighting for years to get treatment, which we finally just got a few months ago approved. So, during these later years, especially since the stroke, is when we started thinking about maybe a dog would help her, because she was becoming more and more bedbound, not able to get up. She's hooked up to IVs. She's hooked up to, pumps and tubes and feeding a good part of the day. And then you become weaker and weaker, and the POTS gets worse and worse. So just trying to find ways of things that might help her get through the day to day, not just as a companion, but getting her out of the house, and, finding tasks that maybe a dog could help her with. We had a dog that passed away then. We were kicking around the idea. Our dog was old, and our dog passed away in early October. Um, and the grief that Hannah had was just unmanageable for her. Um, she truly did not want to go on without that dog. Couldn't even think about getting another dog. But I was thinking. And so I started researching more the idea, if we're going to get a dog, let me research the service dog aspect of it. And I was finding, similar to what some of your other clients found, okay, it's going to be a 2-year waiting list. It's going to be, tens upon tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of dollars that, is probably not an option for our family. Looking at out-of-state options, things that, none of them were really looking to be something that was going to fit with us, I felt like. And one night I'm Googling, and I got to about the 5th page of Google, and your site came up, and I clicked on it. And one of the very first things I saw was that you were a therapist. And I thought, oh, that's really good, because you would understand, kind of what we're dealing with from the mental health standpoint. And then I read that you had had a stroke. And I thought, oh, this is really kind of, wow, you'd really get it, what it's like to have a stroke and have to recover from that. And then I saw you had an available dog that was already partially trained, and you were in the Cleveland area. So, this is local to us. This dog is available, ready to go. My kids all have issues with allergies, and this was a non-shedding dog. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just getting more and more perfect. And then the real clincher was I clicked on the stories at the bottom of the webpage, and the very first story that I clicked on was a girl about my daughter Hannah's age who had very similar medical problems to her. And as I'm watching the video, I'm realizing that she is actually in the same doctor's office that my daughter goes to at the Cleveland Clinic with her dog. And I thought, how can this even be? How
the
how
fifth
could
page
this
of Google, huh? Oh
right,
wow, I'm impressed. I don't think I ever heard that.
And how could this girl be, have all these same problems and be seeing the same doctors, and this, everything just came together. So I called you, and I think I heard from you the next day, and I tried to bring the idea up to Hannah, and she could not even think about it. No. She missed her dog too much. There's no way she could have another dog. So my husband and I talked about it, and we decided that, we'll come meet the dog. Because of course we wanted to be sure, that what kind of dog is this? And, and we were still grieving too. So it wasn't easy for us. But we came and met Truffle and you, and we really felt like this was going to be a possibility, that this could be a good match. And talked to other people there, I believe that day, that had dogs from you. And so we came back home and talked to Hannah about it, and she still didn't really want to hear about it. And then a couple days later, she's like, what's the website's name? Okay. So I gave her your website, and she pulled it up. And as soon as she saw Truffle and read about Truffle, she was interested. And then a couple days later, it was, when can I meet this dog? I'm like, oh, okay. Let me find out. So she, something clicked with her that she wanted to meet Truffle, and we brought her up, and it was love at first sight. She knew too then that it was meant to be, that she needed this dog in her life. And as hard as it was getting through the grief, we still talk about our dog, our old dog, every day, how much we miss her, how much we wish she could have been here. But we have realized how different each individual animal is, and that it's just like children. You can love multiple ones. It doesn't mean that we didn't love
capacity
ours.
to love the beings that you love.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't take away, it just added to our life. And they're different. They are very different dogs, but we have adored them, now both at different times. And yeah, we've never looked back. Truffle, Hannah will tell us all the time, nearly every day, Truffle saved her. Truffle, she says, has saved us all from the grief that we had, and being able to focus on something else and seeing, the good in life again, and moving forward, and that we can do that. So yeah, that's kind of our story.
And you've learned over the time you've had her that she's pretty easy to train if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that the process of learning how to train a dog, if it's not a natural or familiar thing, requires effort and work and consistency.
Yeah.
You've had the dog now 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked about you finally getting approved for these infusions that she's getting that are intended to hope, at least to some degree, improve her medical challenge.
Yes. Yes.
And hopefully give her more autonomy,
mm-hmm.
more independence, more mobility,
yes,
more strength, and
yep.
that the dog's presence for continued training will help her get
Absolutely.
into a habit that she's been
Absolutely.
out of for. How long has she been pretty bedridden? How many years has it been?
Oh, really since 2020, since her stroke.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Not completely. It's gotten ups and downs,
Right. Right.
It fluctuates.
Right. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3
yep.
steps forward, 1 step. I know how. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So, there's been ups and downs, things that, have some definite setbacks with it. But, her goal, as we're seeing her start to improve itty bitty bits now from the infusions, her goals revolve around Truffle often. And you need that. You need to have the goal. And we went to the dog park week or so ago, and she went. This was huge. She hadn't been out of the house in probably at least 3 months.
Wow.
And so now she's, when can we need to take her back to the dog park again? So to go from not leaving the house to go to the dog park, and, it's not a long walk, just a walk from the car to the bench inside wasn't long. But then when we were there, she said, well, I think we could walk that trail a little bit. And
wow.
So, right. So again, we're going from bed to that, and then wanting to do it more. And that's the key, I think. And realistically, does that happen all the time? No. We wanted to go the other day. She didn't feel well enough, but she still has that goal. And most of her goals for recovery are revolving around being able to do things with Truffle. She wants to take her on vacation with us. She wants to be able to go for walks in the park. She wants to go to Target, and these are all things that are goals that she has, that Truffle gives her the confidence that she'll be able to do it. She makes Hannah feel safe.
Would you mind sharing what you did do with respect to Florida earlier?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was really pretty bold of all of you.
It was. For those of us who are not experienced with dogs that much and dog travel, we flew to Florida and we took Truffle, and we were just going to my mom's, so we knew it would be a place where Hannah could, rest and Truffle would be able to settle in. So for the first trip, it was very low key, but we were able to get her through the airport, through security, there and down and on the airplane. We learned some lessons along that way. One of which is you need to really think ahead of time about your dog and what they do when they get nervous. For us, when Truffle is the most nervous, one, she poops. So she pooped in the airport, and I was mortified, but I was able to clean it up quite quickly. And lesson learned that if we do something like that where I anticipate she could be very scared and nervous again, I will have that poop bag in hand.
That's part of that dog diaper bag kit that we
yes, and I have it. I just had to dig it out of the bag.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now I know I would have it in my pocket and even more readily attainable.
Well, you didn't have the same problem on the return trip,
no,
did you?
On the return trip, she was fine. It was just the very first time. The very first time we brought her to our house, that was the same thing.
So it's a pattern. As she's been maturing, you've learned that when something is overwhelming for her as the first time, she could have a loose belt.
Yep. And
Okay.
just the first time, never again.
Right.
So on the return trip, no problem at all. The other thing I learned is that I should have anticipated was that when she's very nervous, she wants to jump up onto something. Um, Very first time I ever used the vacuum at our house, she jumped up on the chair, which she never does. And I don't know that she's done it since, but again, that first time, she tends to want to jump up away from it. So when we were on the plane, well, I should say security, no problems at all. I don't recall now if it was my husband or one of my other daughters through the security gate.
They called her.
They called her. She went to them. Then I went through. Same thing on the way home. We did. One of us stood back, held her, let her go. They called her. She went through the gate just fine. She allowed the security guards to use the wand on her without any problems. In the airport, she did not bark. There were other dogs that we saw.
How old was she when you went to Florida? What month was that?
Oh, she was not a year old yet.
I know.
She was in the spring, but she was under a year. I know.
Yeah, she would have been
we went in
like 9 months old, 10 months
March
old, I think.
Or so. Yeah, so about 10 months old.
So 10 months of age.
Right.
She had enough socialization and confidence and whatever that strange people putting wands over her and all the new things that you experience in an airport and all that. She didn't flinch.
No, she was fine.
Except there was some energy about it that at first made her feel anxious.
Yep.
Right?
She laid at our feet in the airport on her leash, no problems. On the plane, during takeoff, we were in the very front seats. I picked those seats specifically to have the extra room for her because she's big. So we had that extra leg room.
And big and big and big and bigger.
Yes. So it was you're right over those engines near there. It's very noisy. And that's where I come to the jumping. On takeoff, the noise scared her. She wanted to jump up in the seat on us. What I should have done and what I learned for the return trip is put my foot on her leash so that she was essentially tethered down and couldn't jump up, and just pet her. And that's what we did on the return trip, and she was perfectly fine. She didn't try and jump. She wasn't squirming. I had her held down. She stood up, but as soon as she felt the resistance, she laid back down, and we just, gave her some pets and calming. And then she laid there the whole flight down.
And I remember when you shared the video, she's just lying there calmly as people are entering into the plane.
Yes. Again, we were in the front seat, so everybody's walking past her, and everybody wants to pay attention to her, and she laid there calmly and watched them all go by, and was an angel. Nobody could believe this was her first flight,
or that she was a puppy.
Yeah, and that she was a puppy. So I now are planning travel this next winter, and I don't have reservations about taking her. I know we'll be fine with it now. She did great in the hotels. I've taken her twice. We took her on a long car trip too, down to Louisville, Kentucky. 7 hours or something on the drive. We stopped to make sure to give her a chance to walk around at a rest stop and do her business. But other than that, she was fine in the car, fine in the hotel. I was a nervous wreck in the hotel that she wouldn't know the door, to signal to me to go out, and that she was going to have an accident in the hotel. She didn't at all. I took her out probably 20 times trying to get her to go, and she didn't have to go. And then when she did, she went to the door. Right. I'm like, all right. So I tried to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's understandable. Do you remember that 4 stages of competency? You don't know what you don't know. So you're just you're doing all the bells and whistles to see what's going to
right. Yeah, I kept trying to get her out.
Now you know what you know, and you're confident that even if you're encountering different things, you'll figure out because you understand the formula better.
Yes. And I take her to my mom's house. If she needs to go outside, she doesn't necessarily know the door there, but she'll come and she'll start barking at me. And I know the dog well enough now to know that, she doesn't usually bark like that. I think she probably needs to go out.
Yeah.
Yep. So she has, knows how to signal us, and we know how to read her signals now. So I think that, the time with her, we've we've just gotten to know her so much better, and she's gotten to know us too.
You and I have worked, for the most part, we've just been virtually working.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think,
would you say that it's been helpful?
oh, absolutely helpful. Would I love to do more in person? Yes. Does life get in the way of that a lot?
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be able to do
Right.
something maybe in the next couple of weeks if
Right.
it works out, right?
Yeah.
So,
There's things that, weather, I work full time. Hannah
yeah,
has medical issues.
yeah,
Like I said, life gets in the way.
yeah,
And that's something that, we found with Truffle too. It is a lot of work on the family's end as far as continuing with the training. When you're not used to doing that, when we had a dog before that wasn't trained, you do have to put time and effort into it.
yes, you do.
And
You do
when
to
I
raise
see,
children too, though, Julie.
right, you do. But
And
you
you've
have to
got
take
four
your
really
mindset.
lovely children, right?
I thank you. I do. I'm proud of all four of my girls. And I'm proud of my dog because what I see as not even failings with her, hiccups with her, are really on our end with focusing on the training. I know we could train her to do anything we wanted or needed her to do. It's a matter of us putting in the time and the effort and learning, from you, okay, how should I handle this? Because I don't know. I'm not a dog trainer. I haven't had a lot of dogs in my life to have the instincts to know how about dog behavior. So yeah, I need trained, and that's the issue. I think it's more the owner training.
Yeah, it
than it is the dog
absolutely,
training.
it absolutely is. The dogs are always fine, but it's when the owners either don't understand or their instinct kicks in because they forget or whatever, and their instincts are the opposite of what I'm trying to get you to learn. And then you see the consequences, and then we talk about it again, and then you try it again, and you're like, it does work.
Yes. And that's been where I feel like I beat myself up because I know it. I've learned it from you, but in the moment I forget it. So I need to practice it more, like you've said, ahead of time, to where it does become instinct for me, because it's not my instinct. So, again, it needs more practice, but as we've learned about Truffle more and more, I think it does become more instinctual too, with her. That, okay, wait, what would Rachel do? Let me think. What would she tell me to do? And like when we were in the dog park and she didn't want to answer to us, recall, because she's so distracted, I thought, okay, what would Rachel have me do? And so we took her over to the side, and my husband and I did the touch game and I thought this might help the dog realize, okay, I still need to do it in this environment. And so things like that, where I think I'm learning.
I always believe, as a person, I like the idea of always keeping childlike wonder and awe at life, but adulting.
Yeah.
And she's going to be adulting soon.
Yep.
Right? In May, she'll be 2. And that is technically adult.
Yeah.
In terms of at least size and depth and adulting.
And it's things like that, though, too, that help Hannah so much because she gets such joy and laughter out of Truffle and seeing Truffle do these things and play and, be a kid and a puppy still. And, so things like that she doesn't have in her life. She's housebound. It's tough. So having that joy, makes a huge difference mentally to her. So it's the physical and the mental.
And it's nice that, your husband has the month to be home while she's recovering so that if she needs support and can't do the stairs to get Truffle out, and the continued infusions, the hope is, I guess, that you want her to get back to that baseline, at least of her being, if she is home alone.
Yes.
That you feel safe about it and that she can get the dog in and out of the house if need be.
Right. And really, if she could do that amount of care and just play with her a little bit, that's all the care that we really would anticipate with her and Truffle. We don't mind being the rest of the support, right. Bathing the dog, things that, but we really want her to focus on the things that would help her, physically, and that bring her joy with the dog. And not to say that maybe someday she won't be more involved in the care beyond that, but, if she can just come downstairs and let her out, play with her, get to go on a short walk. These are some of our short-term goals, not necessarily the long-term goals, but
Right.
those are huge changes for Hannah.
Right.
And we did see some of those things with Hannah and Truffle. And then, again, it waxes and wanes. We've had some setbacks.
Right.
And so now we're hoping to move forward again. But the good thing about having Truffle here is that she still has that reason to want to do those things.
By having the love of the dog and being willing to do stuff that they wouldn't do for themselves for the dog, and then they start feeling better, and hopefully they're making 3 steps forward if they are going back, so they're still making forward momentum, that they will eventually be able to recognize and value themselves enough to do it for themselves.
I've had a couple instances with Hannah where we believe that she has alerted. One, I wholeheartedly believe, is to Hannah's vomiting. She'll get in like a vomiting spell where she's just retching uncontrollably. I have been in Hannah's room prior to her just happened to be in there. She's not vomiting, and Truffle jumped up on the bed, went right up and was nosing Hannah's face, and within a minute or so, the spell hit her and she was retching. I've seen Truffle do that more than once, 2 or 3 times, where
for the same condition, for the same
yes, for the vomiting. Yeah, she absolutely can recognize.
And
the
is there
vomiting.
is there enough advance warning when she does that for Hannah to take any action? And
now that we recognize that Truffle's recognizing it, yes, we have medication that we could, it would help us use the medication sooner to try and prevent that retching. So
right, maybe she will be able to, and maybe there, like, it's interesting when people say, the dog did X behavior, and they ask me if I think that's alerting. It's like, well, I don't know, because I wasn't there and there wasn't a video for me to see, but it sounds like it's possible. So what we want to ask ourselves is the behavior that we're thinking is an alert a functional alert, or is it like, could we maybe shape it into something less whatever or more whatever? And so you're saying Hannah would have the wherewithal to see if the dog suddenly jumped and stuck her nose right in her face, that meant
that
could be
it meant it's
vomiting.
Coming. Yep. And so get your meds ready right then. And I foresee that continuing to progress.
I would wonder also, just out of curiosity, if the frequency with which she does it has changed, or was that a symptom that came after she got Truffle?
With the vomiting?
Yeah.
No, the vomiting has been for years. That was one of her earliest symptoms.
Okay.
I am trying to start monitoring the frequency because of the infusions as well.
Right.
So we're keeping more track of things like that with her physical condition.
Okay.
The other thing that, we don't know yet, but unfortunately, about a month ago, Hannah had a seizure. She has not had seizures in the past other than when she had her stroke. So this was something completely unexpected for us. I can't say that Truffle recognized it ahead of time, but she definitely was, she jumped up on the bed and was right in Hannah's face. She knew something was wrong. I was there at the same time. Hannah actually was not breathing at this time. And Truffle was just going crazy, in her face, barking, to the point where Scott had to take Truffle out of the room because I was actually having to do mouth to mouth on Hannah. And I couldn't have the dog in her face, so it wasn't something that we could encourage because this was life and death in that moment.
Right.
But she definitely recognized something was wrong, whether it wasn't necessarily ahead of time, for this first time, which I hope was an only time. I hope this never happens again. But she was exposed to it and potentially would, recognize it again if it happened. So we have recognized with Truffle, she is very in tune to any changes, physically looking for those things, not even just in Hannah. If one of us in the immediate family sneezes or coughs, she's right there. She runs over and she wants to see, up to your face and see what's wrong.
Let me smell you.
Right. But let me get a sniff of that. What just happened? But that's not right. I'm not used to that. And something's wrong with you, kind of thing. So we can actively see Truffle looking to recognize things that are abnormal or different
She's
in
developing a
us.
glossary in her head of
Yes,
symptoms and smells that correlate to
yes,
danger, danger, Will Robinson, or it's just a sniff.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so we can see it, not just in like the smells or what she's sensing with Hannah, but little things like that, that she will recognize in myself or Scott, that, he sneezes. She's there, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with
Right.
you? And then she knows now because she's seen it enough to kind of settle down. All right, it's cool. You're fine. Um, but
Remind me, because I'm pretty sure you did tell me this once, but I don't remember specifically. But has she ever gone to get anybody to alert them to something going on with Hannah?
Yes, she did. And I left that out of the story, so apologize. Hannah passed out in her room, and was on the floor. And Truffle came downstairs. Nobody was home at that moment in time, but a few moments later, one of my daughters came home, and Truffle ran downstairs and went to Olivia and was essentially like circling and barking, and running back to the stairs. And that's not her normal greeting for you. When you come in the house, usually she wants you to pet her. She's in the laundry room with you. She'll sit there if you can get her to calm down, and sit and greet you there. This was a different reaction. And so Olivia followed her, and she went right up to Hannah's room, and Olivia found, and Hannah was okay, but Truffle, we feel like, was trying to get
absolutely, absolutely. That's very much what Brioche has done as well. And again, they're sisters,
right?
And they're both really showing pretty remarkable skill set, which was never trained,
right? And that's what this isn't trained. This is her bonding.
Yes. That's why I think the belief that you have to wait till they're 2 to pair them is ridiculous and time wasteful. I mean, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but that's why, at least with my placement of the dogs that I either select or breed and raise, is that I can say, I don't think you're a good match, or they don't think I'm a good match, which is fine. But that when I do find people and I think that my dog's match with them would be a good success, I'm pretty good about that. I mean,
and I think that people think that it's probably less work and easier if you get the dog that's 2 years old and already trained by some training organization, and in some ways maybe it is, because they've had so much practice with their basics. But in other ways, I don't know that it would be, because you've lost that bonding time. And so much of what I feel like Truffle has learned has been during this time of being with us and us working with her. Is it maybe more work on our parts, working in that day in and day out training? And maybe, but in the end, it also might be easier on our part, because we'll have that bonding time and her ability to recognize the things that we need her to recognize.
It's interesting, because some of the people have gotten their dogs at about 13 months of age. Mm-hmm. The oldest was 2. The very first dog I placed, I actually raised for 2 years. So she's like 2 and 4 months or something. And then I realized I didn't have to do it for that long. So I had that dog for 2 years and just let her go. And the age at which the dogs go is usually somewhere between 4.5 months to this 13 months. And the 13-month-old dogs are so much more well-trained. They're a lot more of the upfront work has been done.
Right.
You don't need as much support. For me, I just get them to understand that this is what the dog knows. This is why the dog knows it. This is how you use it. This is where you use it. This is when you practice it. And this is what I want to see you be able to do. And it will allow you to, the 3 areas that we talk about: basic, reliable manners, reliable at the airport, at the train station, at the house, at the friend's house, at grandma's house, wherever you are, at the pet store, which I think is a really hard place.
And we've done the pet store.
Yeah, yep. Pet stores are designed to be saboteurs, right? Lots of distractions there. But that you understand the different public access challenges and the responsibilities you have to manage the dog so it's appropriately well behaved in public. And then third, the functionality or the job the dog does, which can really vary over time and vary in intensity and vary in need. And my belief, like a lot of people struggle with, am I an imposter? You know, the imposter syndrome. What I don't. This is just an emotional support dog. This isn't a service dog. And I'm like, it's a service dog. You know, like don't look at the internet for the definitive be all end all of all things in the universe. It's just not an accurate respect. It's not an accurate thing. And a lot of these online support type groups, some of them are really helpful and some of them are really toxic and hurtful. And I think that's true of anything on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, it's interesting that the ones that get the more well-trained dogs sort of are misty-eyed about, I miss that puppyhood. I wish I had known my puppy is a puppy.
Yeah.
And then the ones who get the younger dogs say, gosh, I wish I might have waited, you know, but ultimately, kind of like you're saying, is you've bonded with her. You've discovered that she has this kind of like needs a one-time experience and then she's good. And sometimes she's good the first time, but sometimes you found that she's overstimulated and it's not been fun. But now you've checked off early on the airport and the flying and the going through the, you know, security and waiting for your plane and getting on your plane and waiting for everybody else to get on the plane and then the plane taking off and then flying. And I've flown a lot of puppies, service dog puppies, like I've flown to get them and brought them back to Cleveland or whatever. And they're always perfect. But the reason they're perfect is they're so overwhelmed, they just shut down. And it makes me look good. And with older dogs, I say, don't worry, the dog is going to be calm, you know, for the most part. Like the engine starting right under her, understandable that it startled her, but then it became, okay, this is the sound and vibration that happens. We talk about the vibration. There's a literal vibration you have on it's the same if you're on a bus or you're on a rapid transit or you're in a subway, there's vibration on the floor. So you've done a great job. Have you gone back to Cedar Point at all with her?
We've gone, I'm going to say 2 or 3 times. So we're planning on some more. It's just been so hot.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do well in the heat. I mean, she's a sheepdog. So we're planning on some more. You know, we do just short trips with her over there. We tried early in the season when it wasn't as hot and not as crowded over there. We'll do some evenings and
how late are they open to in the season? Like when do they
I think through Labor Day they're open every day, and then it's weekends after that, all the way up to through the end of October.
Okay.
You know, I will tell you, I was nervous taking her to Cedar Point. If you can find any place else that would be more sensory overload in the world to a dog, I don't know where it would be. So I figured if we can get this dog to be okay at Cedar Point, we can take her.
That's right. Anywhere. That's right. It's like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Broadway.
Yeah, so we're going to do it.
Cedar Point is the Broadway of sensory overload.
Oh, I mean, the roller coasters are so loud. You know, all the people, all the kids running and screaming on the roller coasters, and the smells of all the food, and she does pretty well. You know, again, is she a little distracted when we first get there? Yeah, who wouldn't be? You know, I'm overloaded.
Well, it's kind of like when the neighbor's dogs are first let out. That first trigger, right? So, all right. Well, listen, I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time. I really appreciate your willingness. Is there anything before we conclude that, as a mother of a person getting a service dog, you would say, if someone who's the mother or the father of a person looking for a dog, that you would say from your perspective?
I would say this is the best thing that we've ever done for Hannah, at least right up there, one of the very best things. And it's hard to put words on that in so many different ways. And I say that too because it's not just a dog. If we're going to do these things and take her places and have the dog with Hannah to give her that confidence and in independence, it has to be a dog that's really well trained. I can't just go get a dog and think that, you know, I can send my daughter who has mobility issues on a walk with the dog and the dog pull her. And no, it has to be a dog that, you know, is really, really well trained to be able to do those types of things. So it's not just having a dog, you know, that you love. It's about having the right type of dog. I could never go back next to a dog that isn't this well trained, I feel like. But as a mother, I can't put a price on this. I can't put a price on the joy that it's brought her. I can't put a price on her setting the goals that she's setting. And I know she's going to continue to progress, albeit maybe slowly. We don't know what our timetable is going to be.
That's right. That's
but,
right. I mean, if nothing else, we know that your dog has excelled at being awesome for someone who's mostly in bed.
Yes. And we have said if Truffle isn't ever able, to do anything more than what she does right now by providing what she's providing already to Hannah, it was worth every bit of it, every bit of money, effort, time. And I know it won't be. I know she's, we're still training her.
You're just starting. You're still really just at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
9 months. That's how long a pregnancy is, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's nothing in the big picture of time. So I am confident that we can train her with your help to do anything we need her to do. And I'm gaining confidence every day that we can learn to train her better and better, on our own.
Sure. I just want to say thank you for getting to page 5 of Google.
Yes.
I'm glad you did. I admittedly don't even go down to the bottom of the first page usually, but maybe I should start doing more of that.
I wholeheartedly believe that was not coincidence. To find all those things the same, everything was telling us this was the dog for us. And a friend of mine told us, a way that we think about it is our other dog, Bella, passing away at the time that she did, was her gift to us. And you don't think of her passing as a gift,
right?
But the timing of her passing was a gift, her gift to us, because we wouldn't have looked for another dog, and Truffle would have been gone,
right.
And it wouldn't have been like what it is.
Cool. Gives you chills, right?
Yeah, I know. And that's what I thought, yes, it really was.
Well,
the parting gift to us was the timing of it and us finding Truffle.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say that I hope that we will have an opportunity to see each other in person more, but it's been such a delight for me to hear how both Brioche and Truffle have really got the same job with different people, little different presentation of challenges and stuff, but for both of them to be able to say, this is the dog that allowed me to have hope for getting better.
Yes.
And that,
absolutely.
That's why I do this.
Right.
It's really rewarding to hear that. So I'm glad I'm glad she's giving Hannah joy. And,
absolutely.
Thanks again. And I'll see you soon. We'll talk about the success of training.
Yep.
All right. Thanks very much. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds good, Rachel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.